Picture this. You're an Anglo-Saxon peasant in 878 AD. Life is already miserable. Cold huts, bad bread, way too many taxes. And on top of that, every Sunday at church you pray, "O Lord, save us from the fury of the Northmen." That wasn't just a vibe, it was an official prayer. Yes, Vikings were so terrifying that people basically asked for divine Nordic antivirus protection. The Great Heathen Army, which, by the way, sounds less like an army and more like a metal band, had swept across England like a Scandinavian road trip gone wrong. Villages burned, monasteries looted, kingdoms collapsed. If you saw a longship on the horizon, that was your cue to panic. Only one man still stood against them: Alfred of Wessex. Spoiler, he would later be called the Great. But in 878, he wasn't looking very great. He was basically hiding in the marshes, running guerrilla tactics, eating burnt bread, and plotting the comeback tour of a lifetime. Meanwhile, the Vikings were chilling like frat boys after finals. "England is ours, bro." But Alfred wasn't done. In the spring of 878, he rallied. He sent word across the land, calling up every farmer, every soldier, basically anyone who could swing a sword without cutting their own foot off. He gathered them into an army and marched toward Edington to face Guthrum, the Viking warlord who thought he'd already won. The battlefield was chaos waiting to happen. Muddy ground, heavy shields, and nerves tighter than a banjo string. Picture hundreds of men lined up, sweating in rough wool and iron helmets, clutching axes, spears, and round shields. Forget Hollywood's slow-motion sword fights. This was shield wall versus shield wall, human bulldozers slamming into each other until one side broke. The shield wall tactic was as brutal as it was simple. Lock your shields together, form a human tank, and shove until the other guys fall over. It was less about fancy sword moves and more about upper body strength, sweaty teamwork, and not panicking when someone tried to stab you in the ankle. The sound was unbelievable. Wood cracking, steel clashing, men screaming war cries. It wasn't an epic soundtrack. It was more like a herd of angry goats fighting inside a blacksmith's workshop. At first, things looked bad for Alfred. The Vikings were pros, battle-hardened raiders who had spent decades turning coastal towns into kindling. They were the medieval equivalent of professional chaos consultants. Alfred's men, meanwhile, included farmers who had probably never held anything sharper than a plough. But Alfred's secret weapon wasn't his sword. It was his faith and his planning. He had chosen the ground carefully, forcing Guthrum's larger force into a tight spot. He drilled his men to hold formation no matter what. And he gave a rousing speech that was probably something like, "If you don't want your homes burned and your sheep stolen again, hold the line." Motivational enough, honestly. The Vikings charged. Shields slammed. The earth shook. Spears flew. Men yelled insults like, "Your beard is patchy," which, in Viking times, was probably the worst thing you could say. The fighting dragged on for hours. Men slipped in the mud. Axes shattered on shields, and every inch of ground was contested. At one point it looked like Alfred's line might break. But then, with sheer determination, and probably the combined strength of men who really didn't want to pay Viking taxes, the Anglo-Saxons pushed back. While Vikings are building a shield wall, you can build one too, with the subscribe button. Join the army of subscribers. Finally, the Viking line cracked. Once a shield wall broke, it was game over. Panic spread like wildfire, and Guthrum's men fled. The mighty Great Heathen Army, which had once terrified all of England, was suddenly running for its life. Guthrum himself was cornered and forced to surrender. Alfred didn't just let him go, though. Oh no. He pulled the ultimate power move. He forced Guthrum to sign a peace treaty and to be baptized into Christianity. Imagine going from fearsome pagan warlord to awkward godparent at the baptismal font. Talk about a career twist. This wasn't just a win, It was survival. If Alfred had lost at Edington, England might have become just another Viking colony, and history as we know it would look completely different. Instead, his victory gave the Anglo-Saxons breathing room. From this shaky foundation, centuries later, the Kingdom of England would rise. But here's the irony. Alfred might have saved England, but the Vikings still won the culture war. People feared them, admired them, and later even glorified them in sagas. They became legends, their names echoed for centuries. Today, they star in documentaries, video games, and binge-worthy TV shows. Meanwhile, Alfred gets remembered as the guy who burned the cakes. History is cruel like that. The Battle of Edington was more than just a fight. It was a clash of cultures, pagan raiders versus Christian farmers. It was a battle of faiths, where victory was seen as proof of divine support. And yes, it was also kind of a meme. Anglo-Saxons praying for deliverance while Vikings screamed their war cries. The drama practically wrote itself. So next time you hear someone complain about their Monday morning, remind them, at least they're not standing in a muddy field, shield locked, while angry Norsemen are trying to chop their legs off. Hit that subscribe button now, because while Alfred stopped the Vikings once, they always came back. And so do we, with more epic warriors, brutal battles, and the kind of history your teacher never told you about. Stay tuned.